The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was filled with beings from across the stars. Tall, graceful Veltari with their silver skin and glowing eyes sat in the highest seats. The Mordun, with their large heads and forearms, worked at floating computers. Many other alien races filled the room, all of them looking down at the small section where the humans sat. Commander Lee Hodgin shifted in his uncomfortable chair. The human section was placed at the back like they were not important. He wore his blue uniform with pride, but he could feel the cold stares from the aliens around him. Next to him sat Dr. Park Nari, a kind woman who studied alien life forms. She kept her hands folded and tried to look calm, but Hodgin could see she was worried. At the front of the room, High Counselor Veltar Sithan stood tall. His silver skin shined under the bright lights. His voice was smooth and cold when he spoke. "We are here today to discuss the human problem," Sithan said. "For 50 years we have allowed these creatures to be part of our Federation, but they have shown us again and again that they cannot change their savage ways." Hodgin's jaw tightened. He wanted to stand up and speak, but he knew it would only make things worse for his people. "Look at their history," Sithan continued. "Wars, violence, destruction. Even now they solve problems with force instead of wisdom. They are not ready to be part of civilized society." A Mordun scientist named Tysik raised one of his forearms. "The humans are indeed strange," he said in his buzzing voice. "They make decisions based on emotion, not logic. They take risks that no intelligent being would take. They are unpredictable and dangerous." Dr. Parknari leaned forward slightly. She had studied these aliens for years, had tried to understand their cultures, had even saved some of their lives with human medical knowledge. But none of that seemed to matter now. "Perhaps," said another Veltari, "we should remove them from the Federation completely. Send them back to their home system and seal it off." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the hall. Hodgin felt his heart sink. Humanity had worked so hard to earn their place among the stars. They had followed every rule, tried to prove they were civilized. But it was never enough. Far away from the council chamber, a small diplomatic ship traveled through the darkness of space. On board was Ava Lynn, the young daughter of High Counselor Sithan. She was returning from a cultural exchange program on the Morden homeworld. Her silver skin was paler than her father's, and her eyes held curiosity instead of coldness. Ava Lynn had always been different from other Veltari. She asked too many questions and was too interested in other species. Her father often told her she needed to act more proper, more like a true Veltari should. The ship's captain, an older Veltari named Kesseran, checked the navigation systems. They were taking a shortcut through a region of space that most ships avoided. It was faster, and the council was expecting Ava Lynn to return quickly. "Captain," called the ship's engineer, "I'm reading some strange energy patterns ahead." Kesseran looked at the readings. "It's probably just solar wind from the nearby star." "Continue on course," but the energy patterns grew stronger. The ship began to shake slightly, then more violently. Lights flickered on and off. Ava Lynn held on to her seat as alarms started to sound. "Captain," the engineer shouted. "The engines are failing. We're being pulled toward the Nexus Void." The Nexus Void was a place that all space travelers feared. Ships that entered it were never seen again. It was a region where normal space seemed to break down, where the laws of physics went crazy. The Galactic Federation had marked it as forbidden territory years ago. "Emergency power to engines," Kesseran ordered. But it was too late. The ship was caught in some invisible force that dragged it toward the dark region of space. Back in the council chamber, the debate about humanity continued. Sithan was speaking again about how humans were too violent to remain in civilized space when an urgent message came through. A young Veltari rushed into the chamber and whispered something to Sithan. The High Counselor's glowing eyes widened. He looked shocked and afraid. "What is it?" asked another council member. Sithan's voice shook slightly. "My daughter's ship has sent a distress signal. They have been pulled into the Nexus Void." The entire chamber fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. The Nexus Void did not give back what it took. "We must send rescue ships immediately," Sithan said. Within an hour, 3 Federation rescue vessels were speeding toward the Nexus Void. They were the best ships with the most advanced technology. Their crews were trained for dangerous missions. But when they reached the edge of the void, they stopped. The energy storms that swirled at the border were unlike anything they had seen. The ship's computers calculated that entering would mean certain destruction. "We cannot proceed," reported the lead rescue captain. Our ships would be torn apart in minutes. The Council watched the rescue attempt through live video feeds. They saw their most advanced ships turn away from the void. The rescue mission was called off. Evelyn was declared lost, another victim of the terrible Nexus void. Scythen stood in the council chamber, his silver face showing rare emotion. His daughter was gone, and there was nothing their great civilization could do about it. But in a different part of space, aboard the human exploration ship called the New Soul, Commander Hajin was looking at his communications officer. "Sir," the young man said, "I'm picking up a very weak distress signal. It's coming from inside the Nexus void." Hajin studied the readings. The signal was almost too faint to detect, but it was there. Someone was alive in that terrible place. "It's a Veltari signal," Dr. Parknari said, looking over the data, "probably from a diplomatic ship." Captain Kim Dowan, an older man with gray hair and tired eyes, walked onto the bridge. He had been a space captain for 30 years and had seen many dangerous situations. "The Federation rescue ships have turned back," he said quietly. "They've given up." Hajin looked at his captain and his crew. He thought about the council meeting, about how the aliens saw humans as savage and worthless. He thought about the person sending that weak signal, alone and afraid in the darkness of the void. "Sir," he said to Captain Dowan, "we could try to help." The bridge fell quiet. Everyone knew what entering the Nexus void meant. It was suicide. No ship had ever returned from that place. But Captain Dowan looked at his crew and saw something the alien council could never understand. He saw humans who were willing to risk everything to save a life, even the life of someone from a species that hated them. "Set course for the Nexus void," he said quietly. The New Soul turned toward the forbidden region of space, carrying its human crew toward almost certain death. Behind them, the civilized galaxy watched and waited, never expecting that the savage humans would be the only ones brave enough to try what others would not. The New Soul moved slowly toward the edge of the Nexus void. On the ship's bridge, everyone watched their screens with worry. The space ahead of them looked wrong somehow. Stars seemed to bend and twist. Colors that had no names swirled in the darkness. "Energy readings are off the charts," reported the science officer. "Whatever is in there, it doesn't follow normal physics." Captain Kim Dowan stood behind his command chair, hands clasped behind his back. He had commanded ships for 30 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The Federation's best ships had turned back from this place, calling it impossible to enter. "Chief Cho Minho," Dowan called to his engineer. "Can our ship handle those energy storms?" Cho Minho was a thin man with quick hands and an even quicker mind. He looked at his readings and shook his head. "Sir, our shields aren't designed for this kind of energy, but—" He paused, thinking. "Our ship is older than the Federation rescue vessels, built with simpler technology. Maybe that's an advantage." Commander Lee Hajin studied the weak distress signal they were following. "The signal is getting stronger. Someone is definitely alive in there." Dr. Parknari checked her medical supplies. She was the ship's doctor and alien life expert. If they found survivors, she would need to be ready for anything. "How long do we have before the signal fades completely?" "Maybe 6 hours," Hajin replied. "After that, whoever is sending it will probably be dead." The New Soul crossed into the Nexus void, and immediately everything changed. The ship shook violently. Lights flickered on and off. The walls made strange groaning sounds as unknown forces pressed against them. "Hull stress is rising," Cho Minho called out. "But we're holding together." Outside the windows, space looked like a nightmare. Energy streams flowed like rivers of fire. Gravity seemed to pull in different directions at once. In the distance, they could see the broken pieces of ships that had entered the void long ago. "There." Dr. Parknari pointed at her scanner. "I'm reading life signs. Very faint, but they're there." The distress signal led them deeper into the void. As they flew, strange things began to happen. Time seemed to slow down, then speed up. The ship's computers gave readings that made no sense. But somehow the New Soul kept moving forward. "Sir," the communications officer said, his voice shaking, "I'm picking up something else. Movement in the energy storms. Something big." On their screens, dark shapes moved through the swirling colors. They were huge and had no clear form. Sometimes they looked solid. Other times they seemed to be made of pure energy. "What are those things?" Captain Dowan asked. Dr. Parknari studied the readings, her face growing pale. "I've read about creatures like this in very old texts. They're called devourers. They feed on energy, especially the kind that powers advanced technology. As if hearing her words, one of the dark shapes turned toward their ship. It moved through space like a hunting animal, getting closer and closer. It's drawn to our power systems, Dr. Parknari explained quickly. The more advanced the technology, the more attractive it is to them. That's why the Federation ships couldn't enter. Their systems are too tempting to these creatures. But our ship is older, Cho Minho said, understanding. Our technology is simpler. We're less interesting to them. The Devourer passed close to the new soul but did not attack. It seemed to sense their ship was not worth the effort. The creature moved away, hunting for better prey. Hours passed as they flew deeper into the void. The crew worked together, each person doing their part to keep the ship working. Finally, they found what they were looking for. On a small dead planet floating in the chaos, they saw a crashed ship. It was sleek and beautiful, clearly built by the Veltari, but now it was broken, its silver hull cracked and dark. Life signs are coming from inside that ship, Dr. Parknari reported, but they're very weak. Captain Dowan made the decision quickly. Take us down. We'll land and search for survivors. The new soul landed near the crashed ship with a loud thud. The ground was black rock covered in strange crystal formations. The air was thin but breathable. Commander Hajin led a team to the crashed ship. Dr. Parknari carried her medical kit. 2 Marines armed with simple human weapons came with them for protection. Inside the crashed ship, they found her. Evelyn was trapped under a piece of metal, unconscious and badly hurt. Her silver skin was pale and cold. She was young, probably no more than 20 in human years. Careful, Dr. Parknari said as they moved the metal. Her people have different anatomy than humans. I need to be gentle. When they freed Evelyn, her glowing eyes opened slowly. She looked up at the humans standing over her and her eyes filled with terror. She tried to move away but was too weak. Stay back, she whispered in the common language. You're humans. You're savages. Dr. Parknari knelt down beside her, speaking in a soft voice. We're here to help. You're hurt and we want to take care of you. But Evelyn had been raised hearing stories about humans, stories of their violence and cruelty. She had been taught that they were barely better than wild animals. Seeing them now in this terrible place, she was sure they meant to hurt her. Please don't hurt me, she begged, tears flowing from her glowing eyes. Dr. Parknari's heart broke hearing the fear in the young alien's voice. She began to hum a gentle Korean lullaby her mother had sung to her as a child. Her hands moved carefully, checking Evelyn's injuries without causing more pain. I know you're scared, Dr. Parknari said softly, but I'm a doctor. My job is to help people, no matter who they are. Slowly, Evelyn stopped trying to pull away. The human woman's touch was gentle, not cruel. Her voice was kind, not savage. This was not what she had been taught to expect from humans. Your leg is broken, Dr. Parknari explained, and you have internal bleeding. But I can fix you. Will you let me help? Evelyn looked into the human woman's eyes and saw something she had never expected to see. Compassion, real care for her well-being. Against everything she had been taught, she nodded. As Dr. Parknari worked to stabilize Evelyn's injuries, alarms began to sound outside. The Devourers had found them. We need to go now, Commander Hajin shouted. There are dozens of them heading this way. Through the broken walls of the crashed ship, they could see the dark shapes moving across the planet's surface. The creatures sensed the life energy inside the ship and were coming to feed. She can't be moved yet, Dr. Parknari said. Moving her now could kill her. If we stay, we're all dead, Hajin replied. Captain Dowan's voice came through their radio. I'm bringing the ship closer. Get ready to run. The first Devourer reached the crashed ship and flowed through the walls like smoke. It was a nightmare creature with no solid form, just hungry darkness that wanted to consume everything it touched. The human Marines opened fire with their simple projectile weapons. Everyone expected the bullets to pass right through the creature, but something amazing happened. The Devourer screamed and pulled back. The simple primitive weapons actually hurt it. Keep firing, Hajin ordered. It's working! More Devourers poured into the ship, but the humans fought them back with everything they had. Their savage fighting style, their willingness to fight impossible odds confused the ancient creatures. The Devourers had never faced beings who would stand and fight when they should run. Dr. Parknari finished her emergency treatment of Evelyn. I can move her now, but carefully. As they carried the injured alien girl toward their ship, Evelyn watched the humans fight. They were not the mindless savages she had been told about. They were brave people risking their lives to save her. One of them, a young Marine, threw himself between her and a devourer, taking a terrible wound to protect someone he had never met before. The new soul lifted off just as more devourers swarmed the area. Captain Dowan pushed the engines hard, trying to escape the planet's gravity while the creatures chased them through the sky. In the ship's medical bay, Dr. Park Nari worked to save Ava Lynn's life. The alien girl watched her with wonder and growing respect. These humans were nothing like what she had been taught. They were kind, brave, and willing to die for a stranger who belonged to a people that hated them. As the new soul fought its way through the chaos of the Nexus Void, carrying its crew and their rescued passenger toward safety, Ava Lynn began to understand something important. The real savages were not the humans who had risked everything to save her. The real savages were the people who had written her off as dead and turned away rather than try to help. But their escape was far from over. The devourers were following them, and the edge of the Nexus Void was still far away. The new soul raced through the twisted space of the Nexus Void with dozens of devourers chasing behind them. The dark creatures flowed through space like living shadows, getting closer with each passing minute. "They're gaining on us," reported the navigation officer, sweat running down his face. Captain Kim Dowan gripped his command chair as the ship shook from the strange forces around them. "Cho Minho, can you give us more speed?" In the engine room, Chief Engineer Cho Minho worked frantically at his controls. The engines were already running beyond their safe limits, but he pushed them even harder. "I'm giving you everything I can, Captain. But these aren't racing engines. We can't outrun them." On the bridge, Commander Lee Hodgin watched the pursuing devourers on his tactical display. "They're not just chasing us. They're trying to surround us." The creatures moved with intelligence, spreading out to block the new soul's escape routes. Some flew ahead to cut off their path to safety, while others attacked from behind. In the medical bay, Dr. Park Nari worked on Ava Lynn's injuries. The young Veltari girl was awake now, her glowing eyes watching everything with fascination and fear. She had never seen humans in action before, and everything she witnessed challenged what she had been taught. "Will we escape?" Ava Lynn asked quietly. Dr. Park Nari looked up from her medical scanner. "Humans don't give up easily. Even when things look impossible, we keep fighting." "But why?" Ava Lynn asked. "Why did you come to save me? Your people are treated badly by the Council. You had no reason to help." Dr. Park Nari smiled sadly. "Because it was the right thing to do." "That's reason enough." Suddenly the ship lurched violently. Alarms began to wail throughout the new soul. The first devourer had caught up with them and was attacking the rear shields. "Hull breach in Section 7, someone shouted over the intercom. "Emergency teams to Section 7. Captain Dowan made a hard decision. "All stop. Prepare for combat, sir," Commander Hudgin asked, surprised. "We can't outrun them," Dowan explained. "So we fight. It's what humans do best, according to the Galactic Council." The new soul stopped running and turned to face its pursuers. The human crew prepared for battle with the grim determination that had carried their species through countless wars and disasters. "Weapons online," reported the tactical officer. "But sir, our weapons are designed for fighting ships, not these energy creatures." "We hurt them on the planet," Hodgin reminded everyone. Simple kinetic weapons worked when nothing else did. Load all guns with solid projectiles, no energy weapons. The devourers swarmed around the new soul like sharks around a wounded fish. They were huge creatures, each one larger than the human ship. Up close, they looked even more terrifying. Their bodies shifted between solid matter and pure energy. They had no faces, but somehow they radiated hunger and ancient evil. The first one attacked the ship's hull directly, trying to drain energy from their power systems. But the new soul's older technology was less attractive to it than the creature expected. The ship's simple nuclear reactor and basic electronics were like stale bread to a creature used to feeding on advanced alien technology. "Fire all weapons," Captain Dowan ordered. The ship's guns opened up with streams of solid metal bullets. The projectiles tore into the attacking devourer, causing it to recoil in pain and surprise. Black energy poured from its wounds like blood. "It's working," shouted the weapons officer. "They can be hurt." But there were so many of them. As soon as one devourer pulled back, two more took its place. They began to tear at the ship's hull with claws made of pure darkness. "They're breaking through the outer hull," Cho Minho reported from engineering. "I'm losing power to the forward sections." In the corridors of the ship, human Marines ran to meet the threat. When the Devourers broke through the hull, they found armed humans waiting for them. The creatures had never faced beings who would stand and fight at close range. The Marines used simple weapons, bullets, knives, even clubs when they ran out of ammunition. Their primitive fighting style confused the ancient predators. The Devourers were used to feeding on civilized species that relied on advanced technology. They had never encountered beings who would resort to physical combat, but the fight was taking its toll. Several Marines were badly wounded by the creatures' energy drains. The ship's systems were failing one by one as the Devourers found ways to feed on their power. In the medical bay, Evelyn tried to sit up despite her injuries. "I should help. I know things about these creatures that might be useful." "You're too badly hurt," Dr. Parknari said, gently pushing her back down. "My people studied the old records," Evelyn insisted. "The Devourers feed on refined energy, but they're weakened by chaos and unpredictability. That's why your simple weapons work. That's why they can't drain your ship as easily as they could drain a Veltari vessel." Dr. Parknari listened carefully. This information could save them all. The battle reached its worst point when a massive Devourer, larger than all the others, broke through the main hull. It flowed into the ship's central corridor like a living nightmare, draining power from everything it touched. Chief Engineer Cho Minho was in its path, working desperately to repair a damaged power coupling. He saw the creature coming but didn't run. Instead, he made a choice that showed the true human spirit. "Not on my ship," he said quietly. Cho Minho grabbed an emergency cutting tool and charged directly at the Devourer. The creature was surprised by this insane attack. It reached out with tendrils of dark energy, draining the life from the brave engineer. But Cho Minho's sacrifice gave him just enough time to seal the hull breach. As he collapsed, his last act was to flood that section of the ship with emergency foam, trapping the Devourer inside a cage of rapidly hardening material. The creature thrashed and screamed, but the foam was simple chemistry, not advanced technology. The Devourer couldn't drain energy from it or phase through it. "Minho," Captain Dowan's voice was full of grief when he heard the news. "He saved us all," Commander Hajin reported. His sacrifice trapped the biggest one, but the battle was far from over. More Devourers pressed their attack from outside the ship. The human crew fought with everything they had, but they were running out of ammunition and power. In the medical bay, Evelyn watched Dr. Parknari work tirelessly to save the wounded Marines who were brought in. The human doctor never stopped, never gave up even when the situation looked hopeless. "Your people call us savages," Dr. Parknari said as she worked, "but I've never seen such courage and kindness anywhere in the galaxy." Evelyn realized she was crying. Everything she had believed about humans was wrong. These were not savage beasts. They were heroes. Captain Dowan made one final desperate decision. "All remaining power to engines. We're going to ram our way through them." "Sir, that's suicide," Hajin protested. "Maybe," Dowan replied, "but it's our only chance. Hold on, everyone." The new soul accelerated directly toward the largest group of Devourers. The creatures tried to stop the ship, but human determination proved stronger than their ancient hunger. The ship smashed through their formation, its hull glowing red-hot from the energy attacks. Some Devourers were destroyed by the impact. Others fell behind, unable to match the ship's desperate speed. Slowly, the new soul began to pull away from its pursuers. Hours later, they finally reached the edge of the Nexus void. As they crossed back into normal space, the remaining Devourers stopped chasing them. The ancient creatures could not survive outside their chaotic realm. The new soul was badly damaged. Chief Engineer Cho Minho was dead, along with 3 Marines. Many others were wounded. The ship's systems were failing and they were limping along on emergency power, but they had done the impossible. They had entered the Nexus void and returned. They had fought creatures that the most advanced civilizations feared and won. Most importantly, they had saved a life. In the medical bay, Evelyn looked at Dr. Parknari with new understanding. "Thank you," she said softly. "Thank you for showing me what courage really means." Dr. Parknari smiled tiredly. "We're not savages, Evelyn. We never were." As the new soul sent out distress signals requesting help to make it home, Evelyn made a decision. She would tell her father and the Galactic Council the truth about what happened. She would tell them about human bravery, human kindness, and human sacrifice. But first, they had to survive the journey home. and unknown to the crew of the New Soul, their rescue mission was about to cause problems they never expected. The Galactic Council would not be happy that savage humans had succeeded where civilized species had failed. 2 weeks after the rescue, the New Soul limped into Federation space with its hull patched and its crew exhausted. News of their impossible mission had already spread throughout the galaxy. The savage humans had done what the most advanced civilizations could not do. They had entered the Nexus Void and returned alive. But not everyone was happy about their success. Admiral Veltar Kryn, brother of High Counselor Scython, stood in his command center aboard the massive warship Eternal Glory. He was taller than most Veltari, with scars across his silver skin from old battles. His glowing eyes burned with anger as he watched reports of the human rescue mission. "This is unacceptable," he told his officers. "These primitive creatures have made our entire fleet look weak. They succeeded where we failed." His second-in-command, Commander Jessica, nodded in agreement. "The other races are already talking, sir. They're asking why humans could do what we could not." Admiral Kryn's fists clenched. He had spent his entire career proving Veltari superiority over lesser species. Now a group of humans in an old ship had embarrassed the entire Federation military. "Prepare the fleet," he ordered. "We're going to deal with this human problem once and for all." Meanwhile, on the Federation medical station where Evelyn was being treated, the young Veltari girl was recovering from her injuries. The station's doctors were amazed by Dr. Parknari's medical work. The human woman had saved Evelyn's life using techniques that seemed primitive, but were surprisingly effective. "Your treatment was most unusual," said Dr. Velmar, the station's chief medical officer. "We would have used cellular regeneration chambers and quantum healing fields." Dr. Parknari, who had come to check on her patient, smiled politely. "Sometimes the simple approach works better. We learned to treat injuries before we had fancy machines." Evelyn watched the conversation from her bed. She had been trying to tell the medical staff about what really happened in the Nexus Void, but few believed her stories about the Devourers. "Dr. Parknari," Evelyn said quietly, "may I speak with you privately?" When they were alone, Evelyn's expression became serious. "Something is wrong with me. I feel different since we left the Void. Sometimes I have strange dreams, dark dreams." Dr. Parknari ran a medical scan with her portable equipment. What she saw made her face go pale. "Evelyn, we need to run more tests. Right away." The human doctor's equipment was less advanced than the station's systems, but it was designed differently. Where the Federation scanners saw normal Veltari biology, the human medical scanner detected something else. A dark energy signature wrapped around Evelyn's nervous system like a parasite. "What is it?" Evelyn asked, seeing Dr. Parknari's worried expression. "You're infected with something, a kind of energy parasite. It must have happened when the Devourers attacked your ship." Dr. Parknari immediately contacted Commander Hajin, who was attending hearings about the rescue mission. The Federation Council was demanding answers about how humans had violated their orders and entered the Forbidden Zone. "Commander," Dr. Parknari said over the communicator, "we have a big problem. Evelyn is infected with some kind of devourer parasite. If I'm right about what this is, it could spread to other people." Hajin was sitting in a cold council chamber, facing hostile questions from alien officials. "Are you sure?" "Very sure. And if these parasites can hide from Federation medical scanners, there might be others. The Devourers might have been infecting people for years without anyone knowing. The implications were terrifying. If the Devourers could secretly infect people throughout the galaxy, they could be slowly taking over from within." But when Dr. Parknari tried to share her findings with the Federation medical staff, they dismissed her concerns. "Human medicine is primitive," Dr. Velmar said coldly. "Your scanners are probably malfunctioning. Our advanced systems show no signs of infection. But your systems can't detect energy patterns this subtle," Dr. Parknari argued. "My equipment is designed to look for things your scanners miss." "Impossible. Veltari medical technology is the most advanced in the galaxy." Frustrated, Dr. Parknari contacted her colleagues on the New Soul. If the Federation wouldn't listen, the humans would have to solve this problem themselves. Meanwhile, in the council chambers, the political situation was getting worse. High Counselor Scython stood before the assembled aliens, his silver face showing deep conflict. "My daughter is alive because of human courage," he said slowly. But their unauthorized mission has created a serious problem. They disobeyed direct orders and entered forbidden space. They succeeded where we failed, pointed out a Morden representative. Perhaps we should be asking ourselves why. Because they're reckless, shouted Admiral Kryn, who had been called to testify. They don't understand the dangers they face. They're like children playing with weapons of war. Commander Hudgen was finally allowed to speak. He stood up in the human section, his uniform still showing burn marks from the battle in the Nexus Void. We saved a life, he said simply. That's what humans do. We don't abandon people even when it's dangerous, even when those people belong to species that call us savages. You violated our laws, Admiral Kryn replied. You put the entire Federation at risk with your reckless actions. We put ourselves at risk, Hudgen corrected. We risked human lives to save a Veltari life. How is that wrong? The debate might have continued for hours, but it was interrupted by urgent news. Dr. Park Nari's tests had revealed something shocking. The devourer parasite in Evelyn was not unique. Using human medical techniques, she had found similar infections in 17 other patients on the medical station. All of them were crew members from Federation ships that had approached the Nexus Void over the past year. All of them had been declared healthy by Federation medical scanners, but the human equipment could detect what the advanced systems could not. This changes everything, Scythen said when he heard the news. If the devourers have been secretly infecting our people, then they've been preparing an invasion, Hudgen finished. Using our own people as carriers. Admiral Kryn refused to believe it. This is human propaganda. They're trying to make themselves seem important by creating false emergencies. But the evidence was growing. Dr. Park, Nari had developed a treatment using human immune system research and simple chemical compounds. When she tested it on Evelyn, the dark parasite was destroyed within hours. How is this possible? Dr. Velmar asked in amazement. Our most advanced treatments couldn't even detect this infection. Because the parasites are designed to hide from advanced systems, Dr. Park Nari explained. They can fool quantum scanners and energy detectors. But they can't fool basic biochemical analysis. Sometimes simple is better. News of the infection spread quickly throughout the Federation. Fear began to grow as people realized that the devourers had been infiltrating civilized space for years, possibly decades. Admiral Kryn saw his chance. This proves that humans are dangerous, he announced to his supporters. Their interference has exposed us to this threat. If we had left that girl in the void, the parasites would never have spread. But then we would never have known about the infection, Scythen pointed out. We didn't need to know, Kryn shouted. The Nexus Void was sealed for good reason. Humans broke that seal and brought this plague upon us all. Fear made people listen to Kryn's words. Some began to believe that the humans had caused the problem they were now trying to solve. Anti-human sentiment grew stronger throughout the Federation. On the medical station, Evelyn watched the political situation deteriorate. She had recovered from her infection thanks to human medicine, but the galaxy seemed determined to punish her rescuers. This isn't right, she told Dr. Park Nari. You saved my life twice now, once from the crash and once from the infection. But they're treating you like criminals. Dr. Park Nari looked tired. She had been working non-stop to treat infected patients and develop better detection methods. Fear makes people do stupid things, Evelyn. Even intelligent people. What will happen to your people? Dr. Park Nari didn't answer right away. She was watching the news feeds, seeing reports of Admiral Kryn's fleet moving toward human space. The situation was spinning out of control. I don't know, she said finally. But whatever happens, we'll face it together. That's what humans do. Unknown to both women, Admiral Kryn had already made his decision. He was convinced that humans were a threat to galactic civilization. Their unpredictable nature, their refusal to follow proper authority, their dangerous rescue mission, all of it proved that they could not be allowed to remain in the Federation. His fleet was preparing for the ultimate solution to the human problem. But Kryn had no idea that his actions would soon wake up something far worse than human savagery. Deep in the Nexus Void, the remaining devourers sensed the growing conflict in civilized space, and they were preparing for their final assault on the galaxy. Admiral Veltar Kryn's fleet surrounded the human home system like a silver noose. Hundreds of advanced Veltari warships blocked every space lane, their weapons trained on the small human colonies and defense stations. Attention human vessels, Kryn broadcast from his flagship. You have brought plague and chaos to our civilization. Surrender now and face judgment, or be destroyed where you stand." On Earth's orbital defense station, Commander Lee Hodgen watched the enemy fleet with grim determination. The human defenders were outnumbered 100 to 1. Their ships were older, their weapons simpler, their technology primitive by Federation standards. But they were still human. "All stations, this is command." Hodgen spoke into his communicator. "We will not surrender. We will not abandon our homes. We fight." Throughout human space, the response was the same. Civilian ships joined military vessels. Cargo haulers armed themselves with mining equipment. Even passenger liners prepared to fight rather than submit to Admiral Krin's ultimatum. Captain Kim Dowan, recovered from his injuries, commanded a small fleet of human ships that moved to intercept the Veltari advance. His flagship was still the New Soul, now repaired and upgraded with the hard-won knowledge from their battle in the Nexus Void. "Sir," his weapons officer reported, "the Veltari ships are charging their main guns." "Let them come," Dowan replied quietly. But the battle was delayed by an unexpected arrival. High Counselor Scythen's personal ship appeared between the two fleets, flying alone and defenseless. "Brother," Scythen's voice came over the communication channels. "What are you doing?" "These humans saved my daughter's life. They discovered the Devourer infection. They're heroes, not enemies." Admiral Krin's reply was cold and bitter. "They're a virus, Scythen. They disrupt everything they touch. Look how they've turned you against your own people." "They've opened my eyes," Scythen corrected. "I've spent years calling them savage while they showed more courage and compassion than any of us." On the medical station where this crisis began, Dr. Park Nari was working frantically to treat more infected patients. The Devourer parasites were spreading faster now, as if they sensed the coming conflict and wanted to weaken the Federation from within. Evelyn had insisted on helping despite her father's orders to stay safe. The young Veltari girl worked alongside human medical teams, learning their techniques and sharing her knowledge of Devourer behavior. "Dr. Parknari," she said urgently, "I'm reading massive energy signatures coming from the Nexus Void. Something big is happening." On her scanners, they could see the void beginning to expand. The chaotic region of space that had been stable for centuries was suddenly growing larger, pushing out into normal space. "It's them," Dr. Parknari realized. "The Devourers. They're making their move." The political crisis had awakened something ancient and hungry. The Devourers sensed the conflict between the Federation's races and saw their chance to strike. For too long they had been trapped in their prison of twisted space. Now they would break free and feed on the energy of an entire galaxy. Admiral Krin was preparing to give the order to attack the human fleet when his sensors detected the expanding void. At first, he dismissed it as another human trick. But as the readings became clear, even he could not deny what was happening. "Sir," his science officer reported with fear in his voice, "the Nexus Void is growing. At current rate of expansion, it will reach this system in 6 hours. "Impossible," Krin replied. "The Void has been stable for 1,000 years." But on the screens they could all see the truth. Dark energy storms were spilling out of the Void, and in those storms moved shapes that no civilized being wanted to face. The Devourers were coming. High Counselor Scythen understood first. "Brother, we must stop fighting each other. The real enemy is coming for all of us." But Admiral Krin was too proud to admit his mistake. "This is human witchcraft. They've somehow caused this to happen." The first wave of Devourers reached the outer edge of the Veltari fleet. The creatures fell upon the advanced warships like starving wolves. The Veltari's sophisticated energy shields and quantum weapons were like bright flames to moths. They attracted the hungry, predators instead of driving them away. Ship after ship went dark as the Devourers drained their power systems. The proud Veltari fleet that had come to destroy humanity was being torn apart by creatures they couldn't even fight effectively. "All ships retreat," Admiral Krin finally ordered, but it was too late for many of his vessels. Captain Dowan watched the destruction from the bridge of the New Soul. His human instincts told him to feel satisfied seeing his enemies defeated. But his human heart felt only sorrow for the lives being lost. "All ships," he broadcast on open channels, "move to assist Veltari survivors. Prepare for Devourer attack." "Sir," his tactical officer asked, "are you sure? They came here to destroy us." "They're people in trouble," Dowan replied simply. "That's all that matters now." The human fleet moved forward. their older weapons and simpler technology making them less attractive targets for the Devourers. Where Veltari ships died in minutes, human vessels could survive long enough to fight back. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships used their primitive tactics to confuse and hurt the Devourers, while Federation survivors learned to adapt their fighting methods. Ava Lynn, watching from the medical station, saw her people and the humans working together for the first time. Veltari officers coordinated with human captains. Morden scientists shared data with human engineers. The crisis had forced them to overcome their prejudices and fight as one. "This is how it should always be," she told Dr. Parknari. Dr. Parknari was coordinating medical treatment for casualties from both sides. Human medics used their simple but effective techniques to save Veltari lives. Veltari doctors learned to appreciate human medical innovations. "Maybe something good will come from all this suffering," she replied. The battle reached its climax when the largest Devourer, the same creature that had nearly destroyed the New Soul in the Void, emerged from the chaos. It was massive beyond imagination, its dark form stretching across space like a living shadow. Admiral Kryn, his flagship crippled and most of his fleet destroyed, found himself face to face with the monster. His sophisticated weapons had no effect. His advanced shields could not protect him. He was about to become food for an ancient evil, but Captain Dowan and the New Soul moved between the Admiral and the Devourer. The human ship opened fire with everything it had, drawing the creature's attention. "Why?" Admiral Kryn asked over the radio. "Why save me? I tried to destroy your people." "Because that's who we are," Dowan replied as his ship shook under the Devourer's attack. "We don't let people die if we can help it, even people who hate us." The sacrifice of the New Soul bought time for other ships to coordinate their attacks. Human weapons and Veltari technology working together finally managed to wound the great Devourer. It retreated back toward the Void, followed by its surviving offspring. But the victory came at a terrible cost. The New Soul was destroyed, and Captain Dowan was killed along with half his crew. His last words were a message to his wife on Earth. "Tell her we did our duty." In the aftermath of the battle, the Galactic Council met in emergency session. High Counselor Scython stood before the assembled representatives, his silver face marked by grief and wisdom. "We have learned something important today," he said. "We called humans savage because they fight when others retreat. We called them primitive because they use simple solutions to complex problems. We called them dangerous because they don't follow our rules." He paused, looking around the chamber at the representatives of dozens of alien races. "But when the real danger came, when creatures from our nightmares attacked our civilization, it was human savagery that saved us. It was human primitiveness that proved effective where our advancement failed. It was human danger that stood between us and extinction." Admiral Kryn, his arm in a medical cast, stood to speak. His pride was broken, but his understanding was finally clear. "I was wrong," he said simply. "I let fear and prejudice cloud my judgment. The humans are not our enemies. They are our protectors." The vote to change humanity's status from Class D savage species to guardian species was unanimous. For the first time in galactic history, humans were not just accepted, they were honored. Months later, Ava Lynn stood in the human section of the new Integrated Galactic Council building. She wore the uniform of a Federation ambassador, working to build bridges between her people and the humans who had saved her life. Dr. Parknari had been appointed as Director of Interspecies Medical Research. Her techniques for detecting and treating Devourer infections were now standard throughout the galaxy. She had saved countless lives with her primitive human medicine. Commander Hajin, now promoted to Admiral, led the new Guardian fleet, a joint force of human and alien ships dedicated to protecting civilized space from threats like the Devourers. "Do you think they'll really change?" Evelyn asked as they watched alien children playing with human children in the station's recreation area. "Change takes time," Dr. Parknari replied. "But look around. We're already changing, your people and mine, working together, building something better than either could build alone." The Nexus Void was still out there,